And it's going to be a weird explanation. I don't know if it's going to make sense, but the reason to me this makes sense to be an array of arrays is because that's really what this is in a way. It's because there's this kind of two, like it is like it's a grid. I mean, and not even getting into like the matrix stuff yet, like this is a 2x3 grid. It's kind of hard to say, like if I had just a flat array, is this a 2x3 grid? Is it a 1x6 grid? Is it a 3x3 grid? You don't really know. This here, like with it being an array of arrays, like this is, I have 3 arrays with 2 things. And this, part of the reason why this is important, why maybe this data structure is better to use than like an object or, well, let's first look at an object. If I like come down here, I'm just going to make this like a simple object. One of the problems with objects is like, nonfiction. One of the problems with objects is like, well, what if okay, so I have one object, I want to find, the total. Well, I think I need to do this like fiction. That was going to be an array or another object of like, paper and online. Etc. Then we'd have like nonfiction. What if I come and just like create another object that is, object 1, and this is, I don't know, some other kind of thing like X and Y, and this is A and B and A and B. Now all of a sudden, to find the sum of this was, object dot fiction. Like I have to like hard code all of these terms. Dot paper plus object dot fiction dot online. That would give me the sum of the fictions. For this one, I have to do a, object 2 dot x dot a. Like you see how like I have to change these names, but I'm doing the same operation. Like this in really is, once again, I could represent this object as just a 2x2 matrix. I don't really care about the key values. But if I do it as an object, then I'm going to have to like go in and like create a new function to kind of come up with the name. So what I'm getting at here is the array of arrays is going to be good because this is going to be easier to write, to kind of have some of these functions be done by sub functions. So for instance, let's do like, by breaking this up, I know I want to be able to just add the numbers of one array together, right? So, and I'm going to be doing that a lot. So I could just write that into a function, sum array. This just takes in an array, goes through that array. We can just do this in one line too. Let's reduce it. So let's take our, the current, I always forget, I can never remember if the accumulator comes first or not. previous value. So yeah, the accumulator comes first. So it's going to be like the sum accumulator. It's going to be the value. And we're just going to return the value plus our sum accumulator. There's my reduce function. That just takes one array and it returns the value. I have a syntax error in here somewhere. I don't need that one right there. So now I can break this up into like, well, I can just test this, like let sum equal, let's just give this an array 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's write this as test sum. Oh, I actually need to call my function sum array. So now I have a function that takes an array, sums it up. Boom. That's like that's a one sub step. Cool. So now like if I go to test this like June data matrix, so I could say something like this, because I know these are in order from fiction, nonfiction magazines. So I could say like total fiction is just going to take, I'm just going to sum my array. I'm going to use my sum array function. And I'm going to take in the June data matrix. And I just want to sum that first array in that array. That's 6. Well, why don't I just write a function actually that goes through an array of arrays and gives me the sum of each array, right? So let's do another function. So let's call this, this is really just going to sum the rows. Sum rows. So this can take, this one actually is going to take a matrix. So we can just think of a matrix is just, in our case, a matrix is just going to be an array of arrays of numbers. And I'm going to make the assumption that the arrays, these inner arrays are the same length. That's just an assumption I'm making for this, because they should be the same. So that's what my matrix looks like. But now I'm trying to make it that it could be any length. Or, I'm making this, now it's more reusable. So what I can do is I can say, let row totals equal, I take my matrix. So my matrix is just an array of arrays. So I want to go from, let me just give you this example. So I want to go from like this matrix to this array. So I'm going to add, that'd be 1, 3. So this would be 6 because I add up all those ones. And then the next value would be also 6. And then this added up together, 57, 59. What function does this look like I'm going to use? So I'm going to go from array of 3 things to another array of 3 things. Yeah. I'm going to map over my matrix. What function should I pass to this map function? Because really what I want to, because I'm going to be going through each, like this is going to be like a nested array, right? I'm going over each of my nested arrays. Man, if only I had a function that took in an array and gave me back the sum. Oh wait, I did that right here. Then I can do like a console.log, or let's just return my row totals. And now let's store this to a variable row totals, or let's just call this June row totals equal. Let's sum the rows. Let's just pass it. That. 6, 4, 9. Oh yeah, that's right, because we have 6, 4, 9. But now this sum rows function, you know, this can take any matrix. So if someone, because one of the issues with like how we looked how Steve solved it, that was like a good initial approach. But what happens if we like added, like down the road, we added something here, or we added another row, or we added another column? You're gonna have to go in and like kind of change that up quite a bit. Here now, if we add like an extra row, so let's just now we say we can use one with 4. Let's call this random row totals. Let's see, array dot reduce. Oh, this needs to be a nested array because this is an array of arrays. So I need to wrap all those in an array. And there we go, 10, 10, 63. And then, yeah, if there was another row inside of here, I give us back our 4 totals. So now does the array of arrays start to make more sense? Because it's matching what it's matching what a matrix is. So now I can like do math on that. And you know, matrices like can get like multi-dimensional. You can have arrays of arrays of arrays. But if we know like the dimensions of them, we can write functions to that are pretty generic that we can reuse. This would maybe I think this would be hard to do if it was like an object. But since we've like simplified this data to what it is, now it's a lot easier to work with. So then I could start writing my function like const get like June data. And, you know, this would just take, or let's just call this get month data, you know, which might return, well, which would call this function. So this would take like the month data. And we'd essentially just kind of do what we did here, where we get the total rows. Let's call this month row totals, pass this the month data, and then I could return. You know, that's maybe I do want this to be in an object just because that's how we wanted to use this. But I can take this function that grabs me the row totals, and now I can start making it actually useful to my case. So we want a total fiction. That would just be month row totals at 0. Or let's do it like this. Let's do some destructuring. So I don't have to type out too much. I'm going to say total fiction, total nonfiction, and total, what was it, magazine? Total magazine. Now I don't need to do all this. Like this will just help keep it cleaner. What's going on here? What am I doing right here with this line right here? Or like with this stuff?
You're just finding the sums of each of those and then returning each one.
So first of all, let's look at it this way. So we did my sum row totals where we map over it. We kind of saw that, right? What it's returning, what it's just returning an array of numbers, right? Like sum, let's just say this, sum row returns, you know, array of 3 numbers here. Whatever, you know, 1, 2, 3. So what am I doing right here? What's this bracket notation right here? Or like I'm doing const and then square brackets, total fiction, nonfiction, total magazines. You use this all the time in when you do like your use state.
I was just gonna say that. There's like a custom hook.
No, this is not a hook. This is just like right now I'm just in a JavaScript.
Okay, yeah.
This is array destructuring. I can spell that. Just to show you node. Let's say I have an array, let you know ARR equal 1. And then I say, you know, X, Y, Z equals array. What is X going to be? 1. What is Y going to be? 2. It's just a way to declare a variable. I could say like let, you know, some bar equal array at 2. What does some bar going to equal? 2. or sorry, 3, it's going to equal the second index, which is 3. So I'm just creating variables here. I'm doing it. So now, so yeah, if you don't understand what's going on here, I'm doing array destructuring. This is something you do with a lot with your use state hook, because use state returns in an array. The first thing is going to be the state. The second thing is going to be that thing to change that state. It's a function, but it's just in an array, which it's returning. The benefit of array destructuring is I can just name these variables anything. And I'm going to name them what I want them to match the keys that I'm returning them. Because now here's another ES6 thing. You know, if the key values are the same, I don't need to put them there. That's why that's the whole reason why I'm doing this. I could say something like this. I could have wrote, I was starting to write this out like this. But, you know, month totals equals sum rows. And then I was going to return go grab the first thing. Grab the second thing. Grab the third thing. This would work the same. I just think this is in my mind, that looks cleaner to read. If you understand what array destructuring is, which you should, because you use it all the time with use state. But if you don't, here's another review of it. I'm just grabbing the variables from an array. Or I'm just assigning these variables. So let's test this out. So now I can get month data to my June data matrix. Console.log this. Is that making a little, I mean, okay, so maybe the whole nesting this into a array of arrays might have not been so intuitive, but now that you see it, is it intuitive? And now, not intuitive, but at least makes sense.
For the most part, I believe, yeah.
And
Yeah,
since
after
now,
you went over that made sense.
because yeah, let's just say, yeah, we do end up changing our data like down the road to include like paper online and like, I don't know, VR, something on VR. So now, you know, this would like, you know, update to be like 1, 3, and 5. So now I run this. need to save it. I just needed to, like, my function works. Like, I didn't have to change anything. It's adding up the rows correctly. Even though I like changed the structure of my matrix. I have one to do the columns, so we could do something for the columns. Maybe I don't want to go over this because it might take too long, but kind of the same idea. We come up with a strategy to add the columns. So I could do something like this. I could test this out, like, you know, some, let's call this some columns. Match that, some columns. And then I pass this, you know, let's just pass it my, let's do July data. Actually, let's call this, you know, y log y. So I could take the time, you know, this is a little more, this might be a little more challenging, but the point here is I would just need to do this once. Let's just say this too, you know, find column sums. And we could test it. Kind of individually. Let's just see if we can take an array of arrays and sum the columns. So that's 6 and 7, and we did that on the July data matrix. Does that seem right? 3 plus 2 plus 1 is 6. 4 plus 1, that's 5 and 7. So cool. So now we could go in, do the same thing here in this, where we could do, you know, const. What are our rows? It's going to be paper and online. So paper totals and online totals equal, you know, some columns. Pass that the month data. Total and online. Actually, let's make these match total. And then just add those onto this object. And yeah, once again, like for the June data matrix, like if we wanted to do it on this one, well, we're not getting the VR. Well, that's because, you know, I might need to go in and make a small change to get the VR working. I would just really need to pull the VR off of here. So that is getting our total VR. Throw that on there. But now so now I can, but the thing here, I can reuse the sum row and sum columns, like with any other app that I need to do, you know, matrix addition. And you know, these ones might be a little more confusing to write because they're like, we're doing like some nested mapping and reducing. But then I can reuse them. And it's going to make this part a little easier. Cool. So I will Slack this out. Time to think about that. I think let's go ahead. Let's take a break now. But so if you want to, you can hop off. Let's come back at 11:05, but I'll stick around if there's any questions on this.
Did you say you were gonna Slack that out?
Yeah, it's in Slack right now.
Oh, okay, cool.
I will say this before I end the recording. I do like now, like if I had these two matrix that were kind of different, that, you know, I could start to run into problems where, like, if I'm going to start adding these up together, I probably want them to be, you know, the same kind of grid. Like this one's a 3x3, so now I need to make this one a 3x3.
You're not sharing your screen anymore if you were meant to.
Oh, yeah, let me do that. I think I'm still recording. So yeah, how I had it, since I was just doing that one to like change it, like I'm probably gonna want these to match, or, you know, that's part of this having these match, or I'm gonna need to add some like code to handle that. But I think it just would be easier just to assume, you know, especially if I'm gonna start adding these together and start doing cross matrices math, then I need them to match, or else it's not gonna work. I guess I should match that. That'd be 0. Cool. That's it. If there's no questions, so yeah, let's just come back at 11:05.